Welcome to the channel. In this episode, I'll be showing you how I like to tie one of my favorite striped bass flies. This is a Deceiver Variant. In the vise, we've got a Kona extra strong streamer hook in 2/0 with a keel weight already in place. If you're not familiar with keel weighting hooks, I've got a short that I'll link in the description of this video on how to install keel weight. For thread, I like to use 100 GSP. And for the tail on this, we're going to use a pair of chartreuse saddle hackles. This is where that GSP really comes in handy. If you don't cord it up, you can get some really loose wraps to get it started, and it really helps keep those stems on the saddle hackle from flipping over and turning your saddle sideways. Once you get a pair of those tied in, get them snug down, then we'll come back in and add a pair of white saddle hackles. This just kind of helps tone down that bright tail. Once you get those saddle hackles tied in, then I like to come in with some grizzly saddles. These thin saddles really help provide a lateral line and a little bit of contrast. And they're super limp, so really helps add to the flowy effect of this fly. Get a couple of loose wraps, get those secured, and then pull them to length. Get those set to where they're just about the same length, maybe a touch longer than the other saddle hackles. And then before adding any flash, I like to come in with some bucktail. Here I'm using fluorescent yellow, and I use a little bit less than a pencil width. This will really help prop up that next section of fly. Get a couple of loose wraps, and then use your fingers and push down on that bucktail to try to evenly distribute it around the hook shank. Once you've got that fairly evenly distributed, add some tension on that bobbin, really crank down on it and help flare that bucktail. And I don't stack my bucktail for this. I'll pull out the really long fibers, but I'll leave it just kind of all different lengths. This really helps prop up that next section. Use your bodkin, kind of free up any trapped fibers. Once you're happy with it, go in, take your scissors and taper those bucktail butt ends so that way you don't wind up with a hump. Get it secured, and then I'll come in with some flash. Here I'm using holographic silver Flashabou. And just take about 7 or 8 strands, get it secured on the top, and then flip it over and tie it down. This is where the bucktail really helps prop up that flash and keep it from just falling between the saddle hackles so much. Taper your flash, and then since we're using GSP, I'll come in here periodically and add a little bit of super glue. It just really helps lock it down. Then we'll take a Marabou feather. Here I'm using chartreuse, and just lay the tip section on the top, tie it in place. Don't get too tight of wraps to start with, otherwise you'll break that stem when you go to palmer it. Get that thread out of the way, take a pair of hackle pliers, and start palmering that Marabou around the hook shank. And you'll get a few fibers trapped, so just take your time. Try to work those fibers back as you go. You may get a few going forward, but it's not a big deal. You may have to even take your bodkin to kind of free up some of those fibers as you're palmering that around. Once you get that Marabou palmered around, kind of wet your fingers and pull it all rearward. Then take your thread and trap that stem down. Get a few snug wraps to really secure that stem, and then take a few more wraps just over top of that stem onto the actual marabou fibers themselves. Just don't get it too tight. That'll help these fibers to stay facing rearward. Trim that stem, and then for the body on this fly, we're going to use UV Polar Chenille in silver. I really like this Polar Chenille from Hairline. It's got silver and white flakes in it. Adds a really good body to this fly. Adds some contrast. And then just take touching wraps, working your way forward. Try to keep pulling those fibers back as you go, and make sure you leave yourself plenty of space behind that hook eye. You don't want to build it up too much. Cord your thread up, get that secured. And then I'll come in here with a dollar store hair clip and pull all those fibers back and hold them in place. And for the next section of this fly, if you only have one bucktail, you can use the same. I just had this fluorescent bright green chartreuse bucktail. And since that's going to be the top of this fly, the top of the head, I really like using this. Be sure and keep that bucktail on the top of the shank. Really pinch it to keep it tight. Get some good snug pressure on those wraps to help flare it and stand it up. And then at this point, we can go ahead and get rid of the GSP. Get some wet finishes and cut it. Come in with some super glue to really snug that GSP up, keep it tight. And then I'm going to transition to 140 denier thread and chartreuse. And then for the head on this fly, I'm going to use chartreuse. I believe the package actually says bright green or fluorescent bright green on it. Cut that to length. Be sure and leave some butt sections past your tie-in point. Pinch that tight with your fingers. And then get that tied in. Take a look at it and make sure that's staying on the top of the hook shank. It can come halfway down the sides, but you don't want it to spin all the way around. And then for the bottom, to add contrast, we're going to use fluorescent yellow craft fur. Cut it to the same length and repeat the process. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll come in with the super glue and just lightly brush that on all the way around. That'll really lock this head in place and make it super durable. Get a few more wraps to cover up that super glue. And then wet your fingers and kind of wet that craft fur down. This will really help keep these from blending together too much. Advance your thread and flip that top section back, then the bottom, keeping them secure, and build a thread dam behind the eye right in front of that craft fur. We'll use that same hair clip to hold that craft fur in place. And then we can go ahead and whip finish. And just like on some of my previous videos where I've tied with craft fur, I'm going to come in here with some super glue. So we want to push that hair clip forward because we don't want that head to be slicked back quite that much. Burn off the tag end of that thread and any wayward strands of craft fur. And then we'll come in with the super glue and just lightly push it into the butt ends of that craft fur head. This will really help keep it from fouling forwards or losing its shape. And clean out the eye of the hook, get all that super glue out of there, clean the head up a little bit. And then go ahead and leave that clip there, but pull it back a little bit, give yourself some room. And we'll use some 10mm eyes from Hairline. And I'll use gel super glue to hold those on. You don't need much, just a little drop. Set those eyes in place, and probably better to use a bodkin or toothpick or something. That way you don't glue your thumb to it like I'm doing here. Flip it over and repeat the process. Once you've got those eyes in place and locked in, go ahead and fluff it up, and there you have it, the finished Deceiver. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure and smash that thumbs up button, or better yet, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.